What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Engineers That Filters podcast, episode 139. I think Joseph might have had a little spill there.
Jesus Christ.
I'm your host, Jacob Thompson, and tonight I am once again drinking a John Daly because I have not gotten beer lately, but I'm expecting to get a big haul this weekend. So I got room in the fridge for when I go back to Michigan. But yeah, John Daly, still good. Love it.
I'm Joseph, and I just exploded an M43 across my room. And it's my last one. And this was the only beer I had in the fridge today because I didn't prepare. But I, like Jacob, will get to replenish this coming weekend. So not too bummed about it.
Did it explode because you rolled it too hard?
I rolled it like 10 minutes ago, and then it just sat. And I did not roll it that hard at all. Like, it was a very gentle, like, not even a full rotation.
You didn't like roll it down the stairs?
No. Well,
Kick it down the
no, I
stairs.
did huck it across over the top of our house earlier, so that might have had something to do with it.
Okay,
But
well,
I don't know.
Okay, gotcha.
Oh my god. I'm Gabe, and I'm still drinking what I had last week, I believe. Odell Brewing Company's Hazer Tag IPA, because I have also not gotten beer in a hot minute. And I've been trying not to drink during the week, so I got a lot left over.
Look at you being healthy.
I'm dating, and I'm gonna keep the tradition of just not having shit. I still have PBR from that 30 rec. I haven't even busted through to the second level on that. I am really nursing that thing more than I've probably ever nursed a 30 rack before. But yeah, you know what? I'm looking forward to some Michigan brews and some Fireball and fresh apple cider.
Oh, baby. Oh, yeah. I'm very excited this weekend. We're going back to Michigan for the Dayton Pax family cider squeeze. It'll be the first time the four of us have been together in one location since we graduated, which is honestly crazy to think about. But I'm very excited for that. And
We're gonna get some new pictures.
New pics. And I'll tell you what, boys, my tolerance is at an all-time low. So we'll see how this weekend goes, because I have not been drinking hardly at all.
Well, just pound through all of your alcohol tonight. Just like drink a bunch tonight, so then your tolerance will be right back where it was.
You know, Joseph, I could do that. I don't think that's a great decision with me driving tomorrow, but you know, it'll be fine.
It's the only solution.
Let's get into our weekly updates before we get into our topic. Dayton, how was your week?
Pretty low key. I mean, I just actually I started my running plan up again because I took a week off because my foot was kind of bothering me. So started doing that again, and I don't know how I forgot how much like speed work and like doing like sprints sucks just in like a week's time frame. But yeah, this week just kind of like slapped me silly in terms of that. And I got a new caliper for my motorcycle because one of the front brake calipers was seized. The used one that I bought was also seized, so that's pretty legit. So I did.
I'll be honest, I have no idea what that means. I don't know what a caliper does. I don't know what seized means.
All right, so you got your caliper, right? That's like your clampy boy that holds your brake pads. It clamps on to your rotor, right? So your rotor is the disc. That the big shiny metal disc that you can see on your rim. The caliper is basically just what controls or holds like the hydraulic oil, and goes up in like reservoirs and pipes and shit like that. But it clamps down onto that. So like there's pistons in that which push the pads, and on one of my calipers, so I have two front calipers on my motorcycle. On one side, one of the pistons is stuck. So I was just like, all right, I guess I'll just buy a new one, or a new used one, right? And
because Dayton never buys new.
No, why would I? Still just busted. So I'll probably just kind of like Frankenstein the two together to make one working one. and then make it work. But I'm not gonna be able to do that for a while because obviously this weekend I'm going home, and then next weekend I'm busy as well. But I don't want to spoil it for the podcast because I think it's gonna be a good story. So.
Well, speaking of good stories, I don't think you talk about it on the podcast, but do you want to tell what happened this last weekend?
Oh, on Saturday morning?
Yeah.
Yeah. Holy fuck. Okay. So, all right, so Friday night, although it happened on Saturday morning, it really stems from the happenings of Friday night, I think. Okay? So Friday night, cook up a nice meal for myself, rice, beans, tempeh. That's it. Also bake some pumpkin bread. Okay? Just like quick, easy, like throw in some like water, throw in some oil, and you're good. Bake that up, eat my dinner, and I'm like, oh man, that was a good dinner. And then I go over to one of my friends' place, and we're having a soju night, right? So like soju, the Korean like liquor, rice wine. I don't know exactly what type of alcohol it is. And we're all just having a good time. We're drinking. Like I didn't get too belligerently drunk. I mean, like we were all like feeling it, but like it was not even close to being like the top like 25 most drunk nights I've had. So I walk home because I didn't feel like driving because it was only like a mile and a half away or something like that. Walk home, go to bed. Nothing unusual. And then I wake up at like 7:30 a.m., which isn't unusual for me after a night of drinking. And I'm just like, man, I feel like shit right now. And so I don't usually get hangovers, and this didn't really feel like a hangover. And I'm like, I don't know what the hell is wrong with me right now. So I just like I freaking stumble into the bathroom, and I start peeing, and I'm standing up, and I'm just like, man, my pee's really freaking brown right now. I must be really dehydrated.
Oh God.
And then before I know it, I fucking faint, pass out, whatever you want to call it, right? While I'm standing up, I fall face first into the wall in front of my toilet, and then I like the only thing that I can like sense right now is just noise. I can hear noise, and I can hear like myself like busting the towel rod off of the wall, like off the drywall, and it hitting the floor and just making a shit ton of racket, and like I can like hear like the toilet like moving a little bit too, and I am just like, holy fuck, like what just happened to me? And like I like pry my face off of the wall, right? And I actually had like a little bit of like a scab form on like my like eyebrow where like I made contact. Right. And so I pry myself off from the wall, and I'm just like, man, I don't know what the hell just happened to me. But Gabe, what the fuck are you doing right now?
Dude, I don't know. My audio is coming out both right now, and it won't stop. So it keeps doubling up. I'm trying to fix it.
Can you just unplug?
Can you just turn your headphones
down? No, I
or
can't
your
even hear
speakers?
you guys, and I'm trying to unplugging it and plugging it back in. If that's what you asked me, if I'm reading your lips correctly.
I was gonna say,
just mute him for now, Dayton. Just mute him on Discord, and then we can fix it later.
Yeah, you're getting muted, kid. Okay, so anyway,
drywall's on your forehead.
Yeah, drywall's
fucked up in the bathroom.
Yeah, and then I like pry myself off the wall, and I'm like, all right, Gabe, go. Does he not?
Gotta love our technical difficulties here at the EWF podcast.
Is it better, Gabe?
I think you can hear us still.
I don't think you can hear us.
Just mute him again, and Joseph, tell him in chat to give us a thumbs up when he's fixed, please.
Okay.
I gotta make a note of this so I can edit this out.
Elevator music. Anyway.
I mean, I can hear him.
Okay, I have to ask you one question. When you fainted, Dayton, was your dick still out? Like, were you in the process of peeing?
Yeah, I think so.
You fainted. Okay,
yeah. As far as I know, my dick was still out, and the only reason I'm unsure about it is because immediately when I took my head off of the wall, I was like, oh no, I'm gonna shit myself. So then I immediately toss my pants off, right? Like I'm just like, get this shit off of me. And then sit myself down in the toilet, right? Just absolutely defile this poor thing. And then
Oh,
I am just like, I'm like shaking, right? And I have like sweat just like pouring down my face. I literally have it dripping off of my
Yeah.
nose and off of my chin onto the ground. And I'm just like, bro, shit's fucked right now.
In more ways than one.
Yeah, and then I as like that aspect of it's wrapping up, I'm just like, oh fuck, I'm gonna puke. And, and then
Oh my god.
and then
oh,
and then meanwhile I haven't done anything, right? I haven't flushed, I haven't wiped down or anything like that.
Oh,
And I'm just like, there's no way in hell I'm sticking my face anywhere near that shit that's in the bowl right now. so so that I'm just like, I find like the trash can, right? And of course the trash can is like, it's like 120% full. It's over
right,
full,
right.
as
Classic.
most bathroom trash cans are.
It's
And
it's two guys living in a house. It's good. It's what happens.
yeah, so then I'm just like, oh no, dude, I gotta do this like fucking fast as hell. And like I tear this bag out of the trash and I put a new one in, and then as I'm doing that, right, like I'm like I start like dry heaving, and I'm just like, no, 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 no. And then I like get my head like into the trash can, and eventually I didn't end up puking. I just dry heaved for like fucking like 10 minutes, which honestly is the worst. It's worse than just
Yeah.
puking.
Yeah. You wish you could just puke and then it's done, but with dry heaving it never really ends.
Yeah, and then so then like after I got that done with, I took like a nice shower, and I just felt like super out of it the rest of the day. I think it like
Understandable.
I honestly just felt like that day didn't even exist. Like it might as well have just been gone from my memory.
hmm
But I don't know what it is. I don't know what caused it. I think it's food poisoning. Except I only ate like 4 different things, and I eat most of those things on a regular basis. And it's not the pumpkin bread, because I risked it for the biscuit on Saturday, and I was like, I have half a loaf of this. I'm still eating this shit.
Round two.
I ate it. I didn't have any issues, so that's not it.
This
That
is when you
leaves-
try these things on your roommate date and you'd be like, hey, try this, and you just like watch him for the next few hours.
that's brutal. That's brutal. No, so then that leaves 3 other things, right? Rice, beans, and tempeh. I eat those all the time, but my inkling is that it is the can of beans. I think that the can of beans was like tainted or something like that with like
Okay.
botulism, right? Like which is like what causes stomach issues, or one of the things that causes stomach issues. So I think it's that. But
You don't think it was soju related? Because
no,
soju
I
is a
don't.
fermented thing, right? Is that what you said? Or
I
am I
don't
making
know.
that up?
I
Okay.
I don't know.
I mean, it's alcohol. But I think isn't all. No, I guess not all of it's fermented. Is it?
Yeah,
I'm just
I don't
saying,
know.
maybe if something in there got fucked up. I don't know. But
It's
that's
it's possible, but like I've had soju like so many other times and not had any issues.
Right.
So I don't know.
right. God damn. I didn't realize it was that bad. Because you told me on Monday about the fainting. I didn't realize it was piss, faint, shit, and vomit
Yeah.
all within the span of like 5 minutes.
Yeah, dude, it was pretty brutal.
Jesus Christ. So then, and if I'm correct, it turned into just an anime watching weekend.
Yeah, and then I just binged Attack on Titan for like the entire weekend. Which
Oh yeah. That's
there's
a
worse things to do.
that's a Jacob Thompson certified weekend right there.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice. Joseph, have anything as crazy as a Dayton story happen?
Not nearly as crazy, I gotta tell you. It was significantly more mild of a weekend. Let's see. What did we do? We had a bonfire one night. A nice fall bonfire. Can't go wrong with that.
Very nice.
And then we walked Sky High
Yo.
and
Yes.
Shrek in one night.
Yes. Okay, I have to ask you, Joseph. How well does the CG in Sky High hold up?
Not well.
Damn it.
It wasn't the worst. Granted, I was pretty drunk when we watched it.
Mhm.
And I've been watching a lot of this YouTube channel that does VFX artist react type things.
Is it
and so-
Corridor Crew?
yeah.
Yeah, they're great.
Cooper kind of showed it to us, and then every once in a while they pop up, and they're interesting. I'll give them that.
hmm
So I've started looking at CG a little bit differently and like noticing the things they're pointing out. It was
Hmm.
way more apparent in Shrek for me. Granted, I mean Shrek came out what, 2001?
Was it that
And
long ago? Damn.
yeah, it's 20 years old. And
With my
it
nostalgia glasses in my head, I feel like it looks pretty good, but maybe
it
not.
it does and it doesn't. There were just a couple scenes where it's like the movement of it was just a little off, like just
Mm.
a little bit. And maybe I've seen so many of those shitty videos of like Sweet Bro and Hella Jeff, where the I
Oh,
have the
yeah.
rock,
Mm-hmm.
the soccer's was a distraction, that whole shit. I've seen enough of those that I'm expecting that kind of deformation of the animation. And obviously that's not happening, but I'm like, I don't know. I was pretty drunk, so I was expecting that in a way. But either way, still pretty good movies.
Oh, yeah.
Um, I watched School of Rock last night.
Ooh.
Fantastic movie.
Yeah.
There's not a bad thing with that movie.
You can't not love Jack Black. I
I,
mean,
I know
he's just the fucking best.
he is. I think it's even better now because when I had previously watched it, I didn't realize that he's actually a musician and like he
Right.
actually like writes songs and like sings and shit and he's good at it. So I just like assumed it was like I don't know, just bullshit the
Hmm.
first
Hmm.
times I had seen it when I was younger. So like watching it and thinking like, okay, he's probably writing these songs and he's like actually playing the guitar here. Like it's not like yeah, I don't know, a stand-in or like the fake sound or whatever.
Right,
Like
right.
this is
It's
probably
not when
him.
a character starts singing in a movie, it's a completely different voice, and you're like, wait a
Yeah.
second, something's up here.
Exactly. Or like there's a kid playing piano and like it cuts to just their hands. It's clearly not a kid's hands playing the piano. It's like, okay. So
That kid got
it
real
was
hairy real quick.
yeah. But no, I think it stands up. I think that one stood up the best in my
Hmm.
opinion. But yeah, so
Nice. Yeah, you made a good point though. 'Cause I remember like watching it as a kid. I don't really remember too much of it honestly, but yeah, it's like I didn't know what Tenacious D was
Mm-hmm.
back in the day. You know?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then we also, so last or previous weekend, right? Alyssa and I had gone up to Duluth. So this last weekend, big timing, trying to time at least with the peak colors, we drove
Right.
south to Winona, which is where she went to college.
Hmm.
So it's a small town. Is very similar to Houghton. It's in a valley on a river, small college, kind of deal. There's the same thing like people will go for like two or three majors for the most part. So,
Hmm.
you know,
Hmm.
same kind of deal. So it was cool to see where she went to school and like, oh, this I lived in this house and we would always go drinking at this bar and then go to this place and
Dayton's about to lose it.
so it was cool seeing her college experience or like snippets of it, especially since she hears a lot of my college experience just because
Right.
I
We
live
talk
with
about it so much.
we talk about it so much here and like I mean I hang out with Gabe and Cooper and
Right.
other college friends a lot so it's um
Yeah.
so yeah no it was good for her and I enjoyed seeing it and all this stuff so
Nice. That's awesome.
mhm.
Before I go, Gabe, are we good or not?
He's
You're
still
muted.
muted.
I'm pretty sure it just did an update without fucking asking me, and it just Discord couldn't figure its shit out, so I just had to reboot it. So that was really cool.
We're good
Cringe.
now?
Yeah, it should be.
Okay. Jesus
Yeah,
fucking. Gabe, here's the thing. Me and you have pretty much the exact same computer.
I know.
You need to get a new computer.
And I'm in IT, dude. So
And you're
this shit's fucking dumb. Like I'm so pissed. I
like
don't even know why it decided it could even think to do that, but it decided it wanted to break itself. So that was cool. I couldn't
all
hear
right.
you guys, and it was doubling up. So
I think it's worth going back and listening to some of the stuff we just talked about. But you know what? It's fine. Let me give my little spiel, then I'll let the reins off of you, Gabe. So you have a lot to talk about.
uh-huh.
So for my
Hopefully.
update, I don't have a whole lot, but I do want to give an update on my acid reflux situation because I went to the doctor yesterday and got some interesting info. So I was I don't know like a month ago or 2 months ago on the podcast. I wasn't drinking because my acid reflux has been bad lately, and I get on some meds just give me the front wiper, which, you know what, is what it is. I was on some meds to reduce my acid reflux, like gastric acid production. So I wasn't supposed to drink anyway, because that kind of makes you produce more acid. And so I'm like, I finished that round of medication and it was kind of fine, but then it got worse again recently. So I'm back to the doctor yesterday, and she was saying, it unfortunately turned into quite like a quick visit because they were really behind and had a lot of people waiting. But she mentioned I might have like a bacterial infection in my stomach as a possible cause. Um, this thing called H. pylori, which, like I said, it's possible. There's two possibilities here. Either I have an infection, and if I do, we kill it with antibiotics, and I'll be fine after, or I'm just like genetically fucked, and I'm gonna have to like the rest of my life like kind of limit my diet a little bit, which
Good.
sucks. So I'm hoping it's the infection. Never wanted an infection more in my life. But that was interesting. As I went in today to get the lab test done for this bacteria, and I thought like the way they did it was kind of interesting. So it's a breath test because like I don't know, it's from your stomach. So they do this breath test. So go in there, and the first thing you do is you like hold your breath and then blow into this bag for fill it up like a balloon, and then it like has your breath in there. It's like all right, cool. And then I had to drink this concoction, which essentially was just like mostly citric acid, because apparently the citric acid binds to the bacteria. Um, but it was just funny because it tasted like flat soda that's flavored like sweet tarts candy and also medicine. So like it wasn't bad, but I wouldn't drink it recreationally, you know what I mean? Like it had that like children's medicine taste to it, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So like, all right, chug this as fast as possible, wait 15 minutes, then blow in the bag again, and hopefully that'll like bind to the bacteria, then they can like detect it or whatever. Um, so that was an interesting experience, and we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, I'm really hoping that it's the infection, and if I kill it, then I'll just be kind of back to normal. Because I've had like acid reflux my entire life, more or less, but it's never been as bad as it has been this past like few months. So
Maybe
fingers
you're just
crossed.
getting old.
That could be it too, Joseph, and I don't appreciate that. Because my diet is very anti acid reflux. I eat a lot of frozen pizza, which has tomatoes, onions, and bell peppers, which all like exacerbate it. I eat a lot of mints, which are chocolate and mint, both things that aren't great. And I don't drink a ton, but alcohol also exacerbates it. So basically, everything I enjoy in life, I have to stop eating or eat less, which sucks, but whatever. We do what we got to do to not be in like pain all the time. So we'll see what happens. Get the test results back early next week, and fingers crossed. I'm infected right now.
Just drink more so that you don't feel the pain. Problem
That's
solved.
not a bad strat, Joseph. But yeah, the honestly the issue right now is like I have it so frequently that like the back of my throat is like irritated. So when I'm just like eating or drinking normally, I like feel some pain back there, which is like this fucking sucks. Like I'd prefer not to have this be a problem in my life, but might have just lost the genetic lottery on that one. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, Gabe, give me everything that's been going on, and we'll get into the topic as we get there.
I'm trying to think of how I wanna start.
We want everything
and make it like structured and not garbage. So, or should I? I'll do the update first, then we can go on the topic.
Okay.
So I went on a trip to Seattle for work. I just got back last night, which was actually one of the first work trips that was enjoyable. Mostly because it was in a cool place and not like Iowa, or Kentucky, which my last couple were. And I mean, they pay for everything. And I don't know, it's cool to go to a different area, and it's always a place I wanted to check out, but I didn't really want to pay for. So I was like, this is perfect. So I got a hotel downtown and all that fun stuff. And the customer's super cool too. He was like my age, likes to mountain bike and snowboard, and likes beer. So I was like, dude, we're best friends. This is easy. And I actually got my work done a little early, so I even got to putt around and walk around and stuff. get to experience the rain, do all the touristy shit. I have to see the. I spent the money on a Space Needle. It's $35 to go at the Space Needle, guys. Just a lot of fucking money.
Yeah.
But the way I saw it is they paid for my flight, my hotel, and all my meals, which you couldn't get a meal for like less than $20 there. It's impossible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The cheapest fish and chips I got there was like $20. Mm-hmm. Insane cost of living. So I was like, I'll spend $35 of my own money to go to the top of the Space Needle if the rest of this shit is paid for. Yeah, I just got to go walk around all the. I mean, I didn't have a car, so I didn't get to go travel a whole lot farther outside my hotel, but I did pretty much like a 5 to 7 mile radius of my hotel. It felt like, and really get the whole gamut, you know.
It looked like in your pictures it was characteristically cloudy, as it
was
always is in Seattle.
The Space Needle was actually kind of clear that day, which was cool. But I say that day, I should really say the hour that I was up there, because by the end of it, it started getting cloudy and you couldn't see like the mountains and stuff, even within that short visit, which was crazy. But I did all the other like basic Seattle stuff too. Like I listened to grunge in preparation for my trip, because grunge came from Seattle. I had the coffee, which they're also known very much for coffee. And it wasn't supposed to rain that week, but you bet your ass I brought my rain jacket, and it's a good fucking thing I did, because it rained most of the day, my last day. I said I wasn't going to, and I flew out. What else? So the customer is a public employee, right? I don't know if you guys know this. Public employees, their salaries have to be posted publicly.
All right.
So I'm like, I'm gonna do some quick maths. Let's see how much this man makes. And this man makes I don't know how to do percentages off the top of my head. A lot more. Like in thousands, this man makes $45,000 more than I do a year.
Good Lord, that's like a whole other person's possible salary.
We have we have similar-ish like skills, you know. So then I'm like, all right, cost of living calculator, right?
Yeah.
You would need another 5,000 to live the current standard of living that I have now. Like I would need to make a $5,000 on top of what he makes to have the same standard of living I have in Minneapolis. That's how fucking expensive this place was.
Seattle's absolutely insane.
Oh yeah. And as a result, everything is just way too expensive. Like I said, the meals are super expensive, and there was huge amount of homeless encampments and stuff. And I mean, there's obviously homeless people in Minneapolis, but not to the degree that there are there. But that kind of leads me into the topic. Look at that transition.
Wow.
I noticed this theme of a cultural difference from Seattle to the Midwest, and I guess I could say West Coast. I guess it's the only place I've been on the West Coast. So I felt like I don't know, a lot of the people there were very much like live and let live in a way where it's like you kind of do your own thing. I won't fucking judge you. Don't really talk to me, but if you do, we'll be like a little polite, and that's about it. People were very like, I don't know, reserved in a way, which, I mean, I traveled separately solo, so there wasn't really a lot of people that seemed like they were like in the Midwest where they're just like, oh, I'm gonna start a conversation. Everyone just kind of fucking minds their own business, and no one asks any questions, even if they're like being weird. No one says shit, which was kind of nice, but kind of weird and off-putting. Like, there's a guy just like pissing on like a very busy street. No one said shit. Nobody. Like, cops, people, like, no one cared. They just walked around the guy who was peeing on this busy street, type of a thing. And
that
also,
could personally be desensitization, though. Like, they see that shit all the time. So,
Yeah.
like, New York City has a similar deal where it's like,
and that's
Yeah.
possible.
see weird shit every day.
But even the customer, where I felt we had a lot in common, he was very like reserved to ask questions and like talk about personal life, unless like once it prompted, he was a lot more like comfortable with it. But I asked him about it, and he said it was like very much like a Seattle thing. Like, people don't really talk, like, they'll be polite to you, like they won't be rude,
Right.
But they're very reserved type of people. And the other thing I noticed, because I traveled solo, I eavesdropped so fucking much. Like every place I went, I eavesdropped on these conversations. And I'm not joking when I couldn't go to a place without someone talking about their fucking side hustle to their friend and trying to recruit them into it
Oh my
every
gosh.
fucking time. Like I sat down in a coffee shop probably 3 or 4 times. Like I said, Seattle's known for their coffee shops.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like would get that in the morning. And there'd be 2 people at least every time. They'd be talking and they'd just be like casual conversation about work because that's all they talk about. And then it would just like, how much do you know about XYZ programming language or XYZ databases? Because I got this thing. Like without fail. You're just like, so I'm trying to do this. I got a guy who can do this. I got a gal who can do this part, and I need this piece. How much do you know about that?
So like trying to get a startup going.
They're trying to get startups going like left
Yeah.
and fucking. And maybe it was just like luck of the draw to like every conversation. But I'm not joking. Like it was happened I was at the airport yesterday, leaving Seattle, and I was sitting at the hotel bar or the airport bar, and there's another fucking conversation. Like they talked about kids for like 5 minutes, and then the rest of the conversation was how to develop some tech for some very niche like use case. And it's like, guys, what do you do?
It makes sense though, right? I mean, if you think about Seattle, Amazon is based there, Microsoft is based there, Boeing, I think.
Yeah,
Yep.
Boeing's
Like
in there.
just these massive tech companies. I mean, and you're not even in Silicon Valley, but you're Silicon Valley adjacent,
Yeah.
more or less. You're on the West Coast.
I mean, that's
like,
a huge tech area. I mean,
Yeah.
Seattle and there's a big city in Oregon. It's not Portland, is it?
I don't think so.
Probably the biggest one there.
But I don't think
know
Portland's a
there's
big tech city.
another hipster tech area in Oregon too. I forget.
Portland's hipster, but I don't know if it's tech. But anyway, yeah. So that makes sense to me, Gabe, but I think it's really funny how frequently you heard those conversations.
Dude, it's just so fucking funny to me. Like I I started chuckling towards the end of it because like I don't know what else. Like a lot of these people also in these conversations talked about how they're at one place for a year or two and then they left to go to this place. They're constantly like hustling to get into a better position, which I think makes a lot of sense with the cost of living being as high as it is. Like,
yeah,
you're gonna try and climb your way up. But I also do think part of it is like people are like surrounded by that culture. Like I don't know how it started, but then you kind of catch yourself getting caught up in that mess.
Yeah.
But the career focusedness and the people being very like reserved in that way, like towards strangers, was just like super weird to me and something I'd never experienced before, and just kind of interesting. And just wondering if you guys have noticed anything in your travels or heard of stories, because I've definitely heard of different areas being completely different culturally.
Right. I can start just because I've also been to Seattle. I was there for spring break in my 3rd year. I went to visit my buddy Lucas, who lives out there. He still does. I don't know. Anyway. So I stayed with him.
Close friend.
Yeah, he's so hard to track down. He's a guy I met in New Zealand, and he's a photographer, so he's just like always like traveling and shit.
Sure.
But anyway, he was out there at the time, and I went to go visit him, and he was living in a house with like 8 guys in like a smaller house that we had at Tech, and paying 3 times as much each.
Yeah.
Like, this is absolutely fucking ridiculous. But I don't remember too much about like strangers because I was mostly hanging out with him, so I wasn't like eavesdropping too much or whatever. But I do remember there was one point where we went to hang out with some of his friends that he knew from like the area at like a beach, and like all of them were either working at Amazon or trying to get in at Amazon, and just talking about that.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, it's all about the big tech companies out there. But yeah, I think it's a cool city though. I mean, I've never want to live there because it's so goddamn expensive, but it's a cool spot to walk around. But it definitely is different from comparing internship in the middle of fucking Michigan, middle of nowhere Michigan, thinking about like the guys who worked on the floor. Like these are just classic Midwest dudes, and they'll talk to you about anything but work. Like to the point where it's like, I'm comfortable with how much you're telling me about your wife or some shit like that, Like
Right.
It is insane. Yeah, I had like some crazy conversations with people out on the floor and stuff. So yeah, I think that's very, very different. That's a classic Midwest shit of people will just tell you fucking anything about their lives.
And it is so jarring for me too. Like I went into work today. I have tomorrow off because of the cider squeeze. But I came in today and like people just like came up to me and just like, let's catch up and just like talk about like fucking anything but work for like I probably spent 2.5 hours just catching up with people. And it's just like going from like people who are like, do not talk to me or we'll keep this short, to like, let me tell you about everything. It's just so interesting to me. How differently people can live their lives like that, and like the career focused thing too. Like, I don't get me wrong, I want a nice job and a comfortable job, but I don't feel the need to constantly be like clawing up and increasing my position so I can get in with X company and then jump to other company and do startups and shit. It's a lot
Also
of work.
stressful.
Yeah.
Joseph, do you have any anecdotes you're thinking about?
I'm trying to think. I haven't really traveled to a vastly like that strong culture difference since I've been an quote adult. Like I did I had an interview in Alabama, but like I don't know, it was in like in Huntsville, so like I don't know, it wasn't like deep south, and even then I don't know. So like I don't know, I can't think of a specific example that I can pull from other than Gabe talking about people their side hustles, and I just thought of that Rick and Morty episode where the alien wants to develop the app.
His app,
Would you like to develop my app? And I can only imagine that guy just
that's what it was, dude.
all over Seattle.
Did you hear any like crypto and NFT shit out there, Gabe?
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. Like I know a decent amount of tech stuff, but some of the shit I couldn't follow. I tried, but some of it was above me. Like a lot of them were programmers, and I'm not a programmer, mainly,
Yeah.
So, I don't think so.
It's like I might have had no idea what they're talking about.
I don't think I heard the word blockchain once, so I'm gonna go with no.
Okay.
I'm gonna lock my answer in as no.
Dayton, I'm curious on your thoughts on East Coast and New Zealand.
Yeah, so I guess let me start this off by saying that in the past, I don't know, few months, I've had a few people reach out to me on LinkedIn, and they just like add me out of the blue, and I'm just like, I don't give a fuck, like sure, like whatever. Like and then they message me and they're like, "Hey Dayton, like just thought I'd reach out to you to connect. Like how do you like working at your current company?" And I'm just like, I just like give them some like standard response, right? And like within 3 messages, they're just like, yeah, so like anyway, like I've been like learning under these people, and like we're trying to get like active new people involved in this, and like I'm just like, no, like I'm not interested. Like I just tell them flat out, like this one guy.
Are these recruiters or is this like guys who want to start a startup, like Gabe said?
No, it's just dudes who are trying to either do like a startup or like trying to like get like or if it's like a pyramid scheme or something like that. I don't know.
I feel like that's just cold calling, but on LinkedIn.
Yeah, I am just like not like keen on that like whatsoever. So like these, like the most recent guy, he was like, oh yeah, I'm trying to leverage passive income by blah 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 blah, and I'm just like, ah, cool, I hope that works out for you. And then he writes back an entire paragraph explaining more, but he's like, yeah, like, so I don't know if like you'd be interested in sitting down, having like a phone call or like a Zoom call or anything soon. And I'm just like, no thanks, I'm all set for right now.
At least you reply. I would just not reply to that shit.
I would not have, yeah.
No, it's still a person, right? Like at least I think it's a person.
Right.
So, yeah. But I just,
what if they've got a great idea, man, and you're just
no thanks.
hanging to dry?
No thanks, Jeff. But fuck, what was I gonna say? So like the SNL skit, right? Like what's the SNL skit where it's Pete Davidson and he's just like,
the Chad.
The Chad, yeah. He's like,
oh
okay.
yeah, all those ones, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he later just says okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like me, but with saying no. Like I'm just like, no,
That's okay.
Nah, I'm good.
Yeah.
Um,
I want to know where people find the time to do all these side hustles, you know? Like, I don't
I
get it.
honestly think it
The
comes down
time
to
and
not
the
having
confidence.
hobbies. I think it comes down to not having hobbies.
And
Things to take up the
I
time.
agree with you, Dayton, but a lot of these companies, at least my understanding of these companies, like these big tech companies, to work there, they expect you to work a lot. So like you're looking at 50 to 60 hours a week, and then they side hustle on top of that. So like they've got to use their weekends
Well,
to
see,
side hustle.
that's where you guys are wrong. It's not that they don't have hobbies. Their hobby is making money.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
Mm,
they're like, "Oh,
it's
I
not
have
that
free
exciting.
time. Let's see how we can turn this into cash." And like
Yeah.
it's not a bad idea, right? Like you're making money out of it, like ideally, right?
I really think that it's people getting stuck in like the culture around them, and they're like, well, if they're doing it,
Yeah.
I'm getting
Yeah.
FOMO. I need to make money too. Let me use my skills and other stuff, you know?
Well, yeah, and if you're paying $20 to have a plate of fish and chips every day or whatever,
Which
like
some people do, yeah.
yeah, like yeah, you can't I feel like you're just constantly spending a lot of money. And granted,
Yeah,
you're
more
making
in,
a good
more out,
amount
you know?
too. Yeah, but like you're just like, okay, I am like I don't know, I feel like that brings the level of like making it by to be a little more, I don't know. You want to work like, okay, this is not how I'm trying to think of how a good way to word it, but like you're spending a lot of money, but I mean you are making a lot of money, but because I
a
don't know, you don't
lifestyle creep.
yeah,
Yeah.
lifestyle creep. You're not realizing like you're making more money, but it's like, okay, a $15 hamburger. In college I could get a $2 hamburger. I need to make
Yeah.
up that difference.
Well, and if you're
Kind
hanging
of
out
deal.
with the boys from Amazon that you're trying to like win their favor of, and you see them
Yeah.
buying $20 hamburgers, you know, or
Yeah, and
let's
$25 fish
let's
and
be honest,
chips, you're
Gabe.
like,
It's not burgers. It's $30 cocktails, and you have to network with
yeah,
them to get the thing. So you're spending a ton of money at bars and shit.
yeah.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
just so expensive. I bought a fucking $10 grilled cheese yesterday.
Yeah.
Uh, that was the cheapest thing I could find. Uh, I mean, it was fucking great. It was super good. They were making the cheese in front of you and shit, but
it's
I don't know.
yeah, it's always
I think,
craft in Seattle.
oh yeah, for sure. But I
Not sorry,
just,
not craft singles. I mean, like craft is in like it's a craft brewery. It's a craft grilled cheese. It's a everything.
yeah, I don't know. It's just so interesting to see, you know, like Tim and I have very similar like outlooks on our career. And we're like, yeah, it's pretty good. Don't have to work a whole lot. You get paid pretty good. Good people. That's all I care about, you know. But
Yeah, I agree with you, Gabe. I think it's the culture kind of consuming them. Because I don't know how these people, if they grew up in Seattle or if they go to some Ivy League school and they're like, okay, all the money's in
yeah,
Seattle, and then they start, a low level company and they're like, okay, I got to climb this corporate ladder, and then they never stop. They're like,
yeah.
well, I could make more money if I do this, so might as well do it. Like just saying, like, yeah. So it's just kind of the culture
I
they kind of wrapped up in it,
I
probably.
really do think a lot of them are transplants. The guy that I worked with, he was from Washington area, like from the surrounding area, and he definitely didn't seem the type to like be wrapped up in that stuff. Like just based on the car and like where we went to eat and drink and stuff, he was very like conscious of that stuff.
Mm.
But I think there's a lot of transplants. I mean, even on Tinder for the day I was on Tinder, there's a lot of transplants, which I
Gotta
think makes
gotta poke
sense.
around.
I
Yeah,
mean, you gotta see what's up. But I think there's like a lot of there's a lot of people who are there go there for work because there's so many jobs. You know, like
right,
there's so much opportunities there than there are other places. So it
right,
makes sense.
100%. Yeah. Anyway, going back to you, Dayton. East Coast
Uh,
of New Zealand.
yeah, so I'll start off with the East Coast, I guess. I The hustle culture really isn't near near me, I would say. But I'm also not in like a big city or anything like that. I think if I were to get up closer to Boston, it would definitely be that case. But by me, like most people are just like none of them are super like career driven. They're just like, yeah, I'll just like hit my 40 and I'll leave and then I'll, go to the beach or I'll go out to the bars. Like they're just like that's just what a lot of people do out here. Um, in New Zealand, I would say it's much the same. It's more I would say even more laid back in New Zealand, where it's like yeah, like we don't give a fuck about work. Like we just work, and then granted, so this is South Island. South Island and North Island are very different. Especially as you get closer to Auckland, which is like the largest city there. So I was in Dunedin, and Dunedin it's literally just like a beach town that has like one college, no, two colleges there. Sorry, universities. Colleges are different than universities there, and um, yeah, like most people there are just like, yeah, like we just like to have a good time. We don't care about work. Like I remember we were at a hot spring and we were swimming, and there was like this guy who was like 50 years old or something like that, and he was like, yeah, I just sent my daughter to University of Otago, and man, I wish I could go back and just fucking freaking party with them again. And he was like, I spent 6 years there, and it was the greatest 6 years of my life.
Oh my god.
And I'm just like, oh man, like, don't get me wrong, it was a fun time. They knew how to party there.
Yeah.
But just it's just very different in terms of like they're not career driven like at all. Like they're just like making money to sustain themselves. They're not out there trying to create side hustles or anything like that.
Yep.
Live to work versus work to live.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I feel like so going to your like the town you live in, the vibe that I got from the one weekend I was there was it very much like this town exists because of these one or two employers,
Mm-hmm.
and everyone's like pretty comfortable with where they're at because they know, from my understanding, pretty niche information,
Yeah.
and like are gonna be, you know, like they're there to have a fun time like when they can, but they're not like I'm gonna climb up this employer's ladder because it's like there's no other company to jump to really.
Right. Yeah.
Where
yeah,
you got
'cause-
some place that's like as dense as like Seattle. I'm sure New York is probably similar too, and San Francisco, where it's so dense and there's so many different choices. It's like
right.
jump here, here, here. You know?
Yeah. Because I mean, in my town, there's really my company, and then there's Pfizer's R&D facility, or one of their research and development facilities. So it's like, sure, they could, like the people at Pfizer, they could go to like any other pharmaceutical company, but like really like
Where
around
is
here, you're pretty much like SOL. It's like you got Pfizer. Cool.
Well, and I wonder if New Zealand's the same way. I mean, I have no fucking clue. I could be talking out my ass, but like maybe like where they're from, there just isn't like a ton of employers, you know? So they're just like,
I mean, on the South Island, like, yeah, Auckland is like their New York City, but I mean, if we're talking scale, I mean, it's drastically smaller. And yeah, like I didn't spend hardly any time on the North Island, but so South Island, I mean, Christchurch might be the biggest city where I was.
It
I'm not even
is.
positive about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it has like some kind of city like feel, like vibes to it, like architecture. But I'll be honest, I didn't spend a whole lot of time like out and about as far as like interacting with locals, because like most of the time when I was traveling, you run into other tourists, right? Other people traveling.
yeah.
But I will say, from the Kiwis I met like on campus, like I agree with Dayton, they're way more laid back and don't really care about work, but they're also kind of reserved, like Gabe was saying in Seattle. Like they don't necessarily are super open to talking to like outsiders. At least that's the experience I had, Dayton. I feel like it was kind of like, oh yeah, you guys are the Americans. You guys do what you're gonna do. We'll do what we're gonna do. We don't really necessarily have to like intermingle too much. But anyway, that was what I felt out there, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. I get it. This is peak Trump era, so I can
Yeah.
understand why they might be a bit like, yeah, now with the Americans.
Yeah. I mean, I agree that they were more reserved, and like they didn't really like talk a whole lot like about like their own like personal lives and stuff like that.
Yep.
But I mean, like once they were drunk, they were just like anybody else. Like,
I feel like that's just alcohol's power. It breaks
Yeah.
cultural barriers. That's what I'm
yeah. Yeah. In terms of like reservedness, yeah, like out here people are much more just like they don't really like care what you do. They're just like, yeah, cool, like fuck it, do whatever you want to. Especially like once you get to like New York and stuff like that, then people are just like, I don't care what you're doing, just get the fuck out of my way. Like I'll never forget it. Like Justin and I were looking at a subway map, And this dude is like just fucking power walking, right? And like we're not even like in the way here, at least as far as my knowledge goes, or my memory goes. But he's like fucking power walking, and he's like, "Get the fuck out of my way!" And he just like walks right in front of us, and then as he gets past, he's like, "Fucking tourists!" And then he just keeps on like power walking, and I'm just like, bro, that's like the stereotypical like New York experience.
Well,
Like,
okay,
I'm
so
walking here.
hey!
I feel like New Yorkers, and from some extent, I've heard that LA is kind of the same way through like podcasts and Reddit and stuff, that they're very forward people, where it's like, I don't have a lot of time, so get the fuck out of my way, or here's what I want. Where like, Minnesota nice really just means passive aggressive. Like, if you could do this for me, that'd be great. Like, I I think it's very different, where if you have less time, or life seems busier, you're just gonna be like, here's what I want. Where here it's a little bit slower.
I didn't really experience any of that when I was living with you, Dayton. So I didn't really interact with a ton of stranger locals, just like you, your roommate, and some of your friends. But I did experience that on the road, because once you get to Massachusetts, these fuckers, dude,
it's brutal, dude.
They do not give a fuck. They will run you off the road, dude.
They're awful.
I feel like Dayton's gotten a little bit of little extra Eastern rage, though. Like,
It's
when you drove us back from the airport, you're just like, these motherfuckers. You're just like whipping through shit. I'm like, oh my god, Dayton.
Okay.
Where'd that come from?
Dude,
All the assholes out there.
You have to realize that, dude, everybody out here doesn't know how to fucking drive. Like,
there's one man in his state of Connecticut that knows how to drive. His name, Dayton fucking Pat.
Yeah. No, all right. So Connecticut, I will say, Connecticut drivers on the whole are generally pretty decent. Rhode Island drivers are, you can't predict them. They're just gonna be fucking all over the place. You just can't deal with them. So the best course of action is just to try and get past them as fast as possible. the mass holes, right? The affectionate term for people from Massachusetts. They a lot of times don't ever use cruise control. They sit in the left lane because the left lane is the fast lane.
Fuck those people.
And it's not the passing lane, it's the fast lane. And I'll be damned if someone's out there driving faster than I am. So they all fucking camp in the fucking left lane, and they just haul ass like everywhere. But they're very sporadic in their their speed control, which is I think the most frustrating thing, because it's like, I don't care. Like, if you're in the left lane, I'll fucking pass you in the right. Like that's just so common over here. It's just like people just pass people on the right. It's like, get the fuck out of my way. Like,
yeah, it's the spragness and the speed, and also the switching lanes. They just out of nowhere, boom, and it's like, okay, didn't see that coming. Glad I didn't fucking run into you. Like, they're so unpredictable, and it's fucking infuriating. That's like, of all the places I've driven in the country, Massachusetts is by far the worst. When I thought I was like going to get in an accident. Yeah, I mean, I feel like I've driven in a good amount of states at this point. And yeah, fuck Massachusetts, dude. Absolutely fuck them. It's so bad.
See, I feel like, okay, maybe I'm just completely numb to like where I live now, but I feel like I'm realizing Minneapolis or Minnesota or the Midwest, maybe even as a whole, feels very like middle ground with a lot of these things. Like there's some aggressive drivers in Minneapolis, don't get me wrong. There's some reckless drivers, but I don't think they're like the worst. People aren't like crazy career driven, but like people aren't like overly friendly as much as people from Minnesota want you to think, but they're not like overly standoffish. Maybe I'm just pulling it out of my ass, but it seems like from the other places I visited, they're very very different culturally.
Yeah, I mean, the Midwest is the middle of the country, and that rings true for a lot of traits, which not necessarily is a bad thing. That's why I like the Midwest, because you kind of, nothing's too bad, nothing's amazing, but like, you kind of get the best of both worlds, more or less. So it's not too rough.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, West Coast, very different. East Coast, honestly, it wasn't that different besides the driving. Like, I noticed with, like, just going around town with Dayton and stuff. The people felt pretty similar, I think, like in Connecticut than they did in Michigan.
I remember one of our friends from Tech is from New York State, and we always made fun of her and asking if she was from the city. But one thing she always said to me is that if you're driving in New York and you're trying to merge onto the highway, do not use your turn signal, because people just fuck you over or like, just not give a fuck. Like, don't put in turn signal and just get your ass in there as fast as possible. Which now I can confirm driving out there, 'cause it's God, people are assholes driving out there. But yeah. Any other spots we want to talk about in the country or the world?
Oh, I was gonna say Gabe had his rain jacket thing, but
Yeah,
I had a small update on the rain jacket episode. Obviously, Seattle's known for its rain, and I had mentioned I brought my rain jacket and it had rained, and I made it my life's mission that day because I started to get bored by the end of the last day. To be honest, you can only go so far from the hotel. I started counting. I didn't like actually record data. I should have, but I started like taking note of who was wearing jackets and who was wearing umbrellas. And I've noticed some art around town and like between like touristy shops or whatever, and street art or something like umbrellas and art. I'm like, maybe that's just cooler to draw than a rain jacket.
Right, because rain.
Yeah, I've got to say, overwhelmingly, the young tech guys and girls, employees, you could tell that were like had the backpack I had, where it's like you got a laptop in there and a bunch of shit. All rain jackets, guys. There was, on one hand, I could count young people who had an umbrella. In two of those cases on that single hand, they also had a rain jacket. So I was like, I mean, that works.
A little double duty,
There was I think there was one older lady that I saw with a rain jacket. Everyone else, although the older generation, had an umbrella. So
that's to be expected. That's what we predicted. Would be the case.
It was one day. I mean, it could be bias, confirmation bias, or whatever. But I genuinely do think younger people were wearing rain jackets, and older people tended to have the umbrella.
Right. I just can't imagine like a tech bro with an umbrella. Like that picture cannot form in my mind. I'm like trying to sell somebody a startup while holding an umbrella. It's like,
yeah,
I don't buy it. That's like some Wall Street shit. That's not fucking, Seattle tech shit.
There was a ton of HPE, which is HP Enterprise. They're like technically a separate company, but they do all like the servers and shit. A ton of those employees, all rain jackets, but they had backpacks that had their logo. A lot of Amazon employees as well, with the Amazon smile masks. It's like gross. Also rain jackets though. Some of them I think had like Amazon branded rain jackets. It could have been like a weird double take situation, but
sounds like a shitty rain jacket if you ask me.
Yeah, it sounds like a cult, not a job.
They probably just got this for free though. It's probably just swag they got at like corporate events, and
I wouldn't wear it.
These aren't the people in the factory pissing in bottles. These are the ones up in corporate making the fat stacks.
Jerking each other off over like how good they are and their different startups and stuff.
Maybe I gotta go to space next.
Yeah. I don't know.
Fucking ridiculous. Last thing I want to say, Gabe, did you see any cultural things in New Mexico when you lived there for a summer?
It's a good question. Obviously, there was more Native American descendants and Native Americans in that area, but I don't think they were really like that standoffish. I think they were like pretty friendly people and pretty open. And I think even the area I was in, which is kind of by Santa Fe, was very similar to the Midwest, actually. Very like kind of welcoming. There was a little bit of South too, like the like hospitality style. Yeah. Like everyone's super nice. Like my boss was like one of the most extroverted people I've ever met in my entire life. He was inviting me to shit all the time, and same thing with everyone else in the team. Like, oh, come do this with me, come do that with me. Very inviting people, I would say.
Interesting. Yeah. You just remind me. We've talked about before when we talked about New Zealand in the past podcast episodes, but I fucking love the Maori people in New Zealand. Like the native. I don't know if you call them tribe or not, but they're fantastic. They're so fucking funny, and I love their accent, and they're just the best. Love them so much. But yeah, that pretty much. We feel like we covered a decent amount of the U.S. there. We didn't really get much south, but a lot of spent a whole time in the south.
If there's any southern listeners, end the episode right now. Fuck Florida.
Definitely. I mean, what I've heard is like what everybody's heard is like, yeah, the Southern hospitality, they're really nice. They'll feed you a lot, but also probably racist. Like there's a lot of racism down there. Um, so
I feel like it's also
pros and cons.
forced hospitality, right? We're like, I don't know. I guess I'm trying to think of like the most southern place I've been, like southern hospitality type. It always seems like they're like nice because they expect other people to be nice to them type of a deal.
Sure.
Where I don't know. Maybe I'm making that up.
Yeah, we're speaking out of our ass as usual. So if any southern listeners, please set us straight.
Correct us in the comments.
Yeah, but that'll probably do it for this week's episode of the podcast. Next week we'll be back with our shenanigans from the cider
It's definitely
squeeze.
just gonna be a recap of that.
Hopefully we'll have some good stories from that. We'll also see in Dune tomorrow, which is kind of like we're seeing Dune in 24 hours, guys. Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, I am hyped.
I'm gonna read the book in 24 hours.
Yeah, I'm gonna read the book over. We're gonna listen to the audiobook on the drive out. So
Do you think we could finish that in 8 hours?
No.
That book's fucking huge.
we could probably get through most of what the movie is gonna go through at least.
Yeah, the movie's only the first half, so
I bet we could get through that.
good luck. No, this is no offense to Dune. Good luck not falling asleep. I feel like depending on who's reading that the audiobook,
The first 100 pages are pretty fucking rough. They're pretty lame.
That would get us about halfway through Wisconsin.
I think the part that I remember being really like, okay, this book's good, was the dinner scene. I remember that.
Yeah.
I feel like
That was the turning
once
point
they
for
got onto the planet, for me, that was like, okay, let's go.
Mhm.
I'm so excited. I can't get over the casting. Casting is absolutely immaculate for this movie. So I just can't wait to see.
I hope it's just a dumpster fire. Like, there's a little bit of me. As much as I love the book, like, man.
I don't know. Early reviews
How
have been
funny
good.
would it be?
The only criticism I've seen is people being like, "Yeah, it's only the first half, so it kind of just ends,"
Yeah.
which is to be expected. But
I
I'm
think it
super
has
excited.
to. I mean, how long is that book? Like 500, 600 pages?
Yeah, I mean, it has to be two parts if you want to do justice to it, and I think Denis Villeneuve will do it. But yeah, we'll talk about that all next week. Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and podcast services and YouTube, all that. I forgot to say at the beginning, but whatever. You know the drill. Check our description for any links to anything.
We
yeah,
don't
until
have
next
new
time.
listeners.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
They all know.
Until next time, thanks for watching. Bye.
Bye.
See ya.